To comment during the Frankly Speaking show, you first need to open the video that is being streamed live. Look for the chat box on the side or bottom of the video player. This is where you can type your message. Click inside the chat box and use your keyboard to type out what you want to say. You can type words, use emojis, or even ask questions. Once you've typed your message, press the Enter key on your keyboard or click the Send button. Your comment will then appear in the chat for everyone watching the live stream to see. If you want to send another comment, just type it in the chat box again and press Enter or Send. Your new comment will show up below your previous one.
Good day. Good day. Thank you for joining us for this episode. It's episode 123 of the Frankly Speaking Jamaica podcast for June 9, 2024. Please feel free to comment. We'll try to read some of your comments in this podcast. If you haven't yet done so, please subscribe and share this podcast. Regular presenters Winnie Anderson Brown and Desmond Richards are with us. We thank them. Mary White is on a break. Let's hear in brief what first Winnie and then Desmond will be talking to us about. Winnie?
Yes, well, today I will go back to early childhood education and I will spend some time focusing on basic schools.
Great, thanks. Desmond?
Yeah, I will spend some time talking about political murders and landlessness.
Political murders and landlessness. Thank you. I'm Franklin McKnight. I want to start the ball rolling about the hard, cold things that show who we are as Jamaicans in my commentary, Frankly Speaking. In one of his classics, We the People, the Power and the Glory, singer Ernest Smith asks the question, are we building a nation or are we building a hut? The lyrics are well known. Every time you ask for some old friend, you hear say, just last night he meet a sad, sad end. That's part of the argument, the part of the lyrics talking about crime. But there's more than that there, and so on. He asks, we the people want to know just where we're going. Right now, our hands are tied behind our back, while certain people, if and but in, where do we stand? We have too far to go not to really know just how we're getting there or if we're getting anywhere. It's a song going back to the late 70s, but its relevance remains. We have too much to change not to know the range or of possibility and changeability. Are we building a nation or are we building a hut? Frankly speaking, a nation is not just a space with borders and a government. Nation is a lot more, and not just with a flag and an anthem. A nation is much more. This Janus country, this country with its Janus feature, with its increasing high-rise and gated communities, short way from squalor and expanding ghettos and informal communities, with on the one hand its ritzy SUVs set against its middle passage public transport system that's operated for the masses. It's on a slippery slope toward the hut, regardless of the pretensions and the painting of the hut. Frankly speaking, it's still amazing to me that the political leadership of the country, and I mean the full political leadership across the spectrum, does not believe that Jamaicans deserve better than we have. I mean, you think that we couldn't really deal with the nasty habits that we see, the dirty roads, the awful drains in some place like Spanish Town. You mean we are incapable of dealing with those things? I've been pointing out over the years to the decline towards the hot, the expanding lawlessness and craziness about us, optimally manifested in the use of the roads. And frankly speaking, when I say use of the roads, I don't mean only intimidatory, sometimes murderous driving, but also the use of the roads in general. And by the way, is there something called Peace Step that is supposed to take charge of that? You would think that Peace Step is working. But when I speak about that, I also mean the use of the roads in general. If a man or a woman decides he or she wants a portion of the sidewalk, he takes it. He just goes out there and takes it without let or hindrance. Puts up a shop, puts up his cars to be displayed, puts up a restaurant or parks on the sidewalk for a day or two displaying for sale, or a shop turns his car into a shop. He just takes the sidewalk or the bus stop. This is where we are. No, every now and then, one of the agencies that should prevent this sort of jungle decides that it is to do something. It's too smothering. It's too suffocating. So it has to do something. Frankly speaking, like the Manchester Municipal Corporation says it's to go on Monday to stop Mandeville becoming a greater jungle than it is. Today, I just wanted to turn to markets, and I'm not even going to get there today because of time. But you know, in the last local government elections, there were debates. One of my colleagues, Amiri, Natalie Campbell, asked, which of you, those politicians who are trying to represent, which of you would say you're proud of the market? I think you also mentioned the market in your area. Frankly speaking, no one could honestly answer. On Wednesday, TVJ did a viewer question on the same issue. How do you feel about your markets? And some of the answers were provided by, read out by Janela Persons. I'm not sure you're hearing the answers, but some of the answers were provided. And people thought it was off. The markets generally were off. They named their markets and they considered them off. When we talk about traffic congestion in rural towns, disorder, littering, confrontation among vendors, among various stakeholders, vendors, pedestrians, owners of shops whose windows have been taken over for display. When we talk about that, we are talking about markets. They are the seed, they sow the seeds of that. The municipal corporations are responsible for them. Not a single market in Jamaica operates in a manner that promotes order, business, and shows any regard for the vendors or the customers. Markets are dreadful places where people should not be expected to work. We sometimes don't remember that these are workplaces for hundreds of our sisters, mothers, aunts, brothers, cousins, uncles. Their squalid, awful sanitary inconveniences and tarpaulin all over the place. It's terrible. They are terrible. And we can't get around this, and we have a ministry of local government and parish councils, municipal corporations. That's governance for you. And if we had a serious local government ministry, it would start asking about the markets and not about how much we're spending to build this, that, or the other. That's my comments, frankly speaking.
Well, Franklin, it is the situation as it exists now. Remember, the parish councillors, they were the recipients of some hefty salary increases during the last salary increases for public servants. And therefore, one of the things that we must ensure is that they perform. Now, over the years, the parish councillors, like the members of parliament, once elections are over, they don't service their communities. They don't service their responsibilities. I think the time has come when we, the people, must demand from our parish councillors greater accountability, and they must perform for the salaries that they are being paid.
And Desmond, I'd ask you, how do we demand that, and how do we get that? The vote haven't gone in, and you have elected a set of people. How do you demand that?
Well, I know it is a tough question, because one of the things that we don't have is that we, the people I'm talking about now, we don't have a culture of demanding accountability. We don't have that, right? So it's a very tough call, and it is not going to happen tomorrow. But I am suggesting that those of us who are aware of what is supposed to be delivered to us, we must organize citizens association groups. We must organize ourselves and get our councillors' attention.
I have one question. I have a question. And my question is this. Does the Ministry of Local Government have a stranglehold on local government?
And what do you mean by a stranglehold?
Meaning that there is not very much that the parish councils can do without the Ministry of Local Government.
To a certain extent, that argument is advanced. To a certain extent, that argument is advanced. But parish councils have resources. Parish councils have people who are market, what do they call them again? They're sort of municipal police. Yeah. Parish councils collect money from the people. Now, parish councils say they can't go out and borrow money to make markets. But the level of representation that they can do is far greater than what is there. Remember, this is a whole, parish councils have a whole set of councillors. Desmond mentioned councillors. But there is staff.
Yes.
There is civil staff all over these places. There are committees. There are commercial committees where councillors get paid to go to these committees. And what do they do? In other words,
if the councillors' hands are tied, the councillors themselves have an association, and they would have a responsibility to insist that for reforms. So if the Ministry of Local Government is preventing them from carrying out their functions, if they want to represent their people, then they must work to have whatever restrictions are holding them back removed.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so we come now to Desmond and his take.
Well, unfortunately, we have a history of political killings in this country. Younger people might not recall, but people like me and many others will remember 1980, when we had 800 political murders in this country. Well, since then, we have seen where the political violence during elections has gone away. Over the last couple of elections, we have had very few incidents of political violence. But Just this week, one candidate announced that Dr. Alfred Dawes announced that he was poisoned. No, he wasn't poisoned because of for his medical profession. He was poisoned because he is a new entrant in the political system. And based on what he said, that the poison was not meant for him, it was meant for one of his colleagues.
And we need to say, Desmond, that he was, the argument is that he was poisoned by one of those people from within his own political party.
Yeah, of course it is. Of course it is. This is not a JLP poisoning him. No. And we must remember, I remember the late DK Duncan was poisoned by arsenic, also by PNP people. Remember Ken Jones, he died mysteriously. To date, we don't know fully how he died. Now, what I'm saying is that we must do something, or we must wipe out the practice to kill our opponents. Politics, we should not. We should not. And I know this is not the only country where politics is a war game, you know. A lot of people don't understand that. It is a war game, right? The war in Ukraine right now is politics. It's generated by politics.
But Desmond, how are you going to ask people
as I said, one of the things that we have to do is to ensure that we don't kill one another over politics. We should not do that.
Nobody would want that, Desmond. But how you ensure that people within their political, they're jostling and how they work out the stakes, that they will not decide to do something to hurt the other person, the other side, within their party or between political parties. How do you prevent that? You can't prevent that.
Hold on, Franklin, just repeat what I missed the first part of what you said.
How do you prevent somebody from deciding that the stakes are so high, I love my candidate so much that I'm going to do something bad or stupid to the opponent?
Well, political leadership have a role to play in this. The parties starting at the top, I would suggest, should make it clear to supporters that the killing of each other for political power is totally unacceptable, right? And we also want these matters to be reported to the police so that the wrongdoers,
because in the present case, I gather that a senior police officer was assigned to the case, but the alleged complainant, Dr. Dawes, didn't cooperate with the police.
What? No, your volume has gone down again.
Okay, I was saying that I gather that the alleged complainant, Dr. Dawes, did not cooperate with the police, even though a senior officer was assigned.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, whatever, I don't know. But all I am saying is that if the police should move swiftly on those reports and try and find the perpetrator or perpetrators and bring them to justice. It is not a good sign for us in the politics. It is not good for us to be killing each other. And as a new entrant, we should, as a matter of fact, I have not heard the PNP issue a public statement on this matter. I have not heard it today. But this demand a public condemnation, because we should not tolerate killing of people in order to achieve political power.
All right, sir. Thank you. We're going to take Winnie, and if we get the chance to come back to you, Desmond, because you wanted to deal with the matter of landlessness, and that is also a major area for us. But Winnie is batting, is continuing to bat, I think, for basic
Yes,
schools, Winnie. But
yes,
some
but
of us want to. Yes, go ahead, Winnie.
this may be a good time as any to welcome Marva Hewitt, who says there's no accountability from the agencies and therefore the disorder continues. Thanks for your comment, Marva Hewitt. And now I go to early childhood education. And I'm going to specifically focus on basic schools. And within the context of the Early Childhood Commission, millions of dollars have been pumped into this entity called the Early Childhood Commission. And it is going to take some time out to read the 12 standards that are there for these schools to operate. And I want us to be very clear that there's nothing ad hoc about what is going on there. When we talk of early childhood education, what age group are we talking about? We're talking from birth to 8 years. And it is important to remember that for basic schools in particular, one of the great things about basic schools is that students are able to go to these schools from they're 3 years old. In the infant schools and in the infant department of primary schools, they start taking them at age 4. And even at the basic schools, sometimes they're taken when they're 2, as long as they're potty trained. So these schools serve a very useful purpose. And the Early Childhood Commission should be allowed to continue doing the work that it has been doing, along with the Chase Fund that has pumped a lot of money into early childhood education. And they continue with the training and the development. These 12 standards that these schools must adhere to. Of course, they're not all at that level, but work is going on to bring them up to standard. At that level of the education system, that is where the workers in these institutions must have an up-to-date police record. And they have statutory deductions that must be made, and they too have to pay attention to rules of safety. The fire department is involved. They must have clearly marked entrance and exit. They also must have their assembly areas. They must have their fire extinguishers ready. So these standards are there. So it makes sense paying attention to what is happening before you're trying to fix what is not broken. A lot of money has been spent and continues to be spent at the early childhood level, especially with the basic schools. So let us not try to make life harder for these business entities. These schools are businesses with a TRN. They are not just there ad hoc, and they have to follow the rules and regulations. They have to pay attention to the guidelines, and there are people paid to assist them. Those who are not there yet, they are being helped to get there. So let us respect that and allow these entities to function, as many of them have been doing very, very well in this country.
And Winnie, is it true that it's only 5% of them that are what's the word they use in the system, certified as having met all the conditions of the ECC? Is not correct?
If you see the 12 standards that are there, you would understand. It is really an extremely tall order, but people are working on it and should be commended for continued work on it.
Yes, but any system,
going to take some time.
Any system that you get only 5% compliance. I mean, if we were to talk about health compliance in the markets I just spoke about, we'd get 0. But any system that is doing 5% is really in a bad state. No matter how you tell me that they're working on it.
Yes, where did we start? take some time to read the 12 standards. Take some time to read them, and you're in a better position to speak to what they are talking about. It is important. Some of the standards are very, very challenging to read. So knowing exactly what we're talking about rather than just using statistics will really help.
But Winnie, when a parent sends his or her child, right, to school, he anticipates that the conditions that have been set, conditions precedent, are met. He's not concerned with you're saying some of the standards are really high because the standards have been set.
Yes.
Any system, to my mind, that achieves 5% compliance, or 5% of those institutions or those units are up to the standard, that system is in trouble.
You need to know 5% of what, and know all the different areas that are there. You need to know that, not just look at 5%. 5% of what? What exactly are we talking about? For example,
5% is talking about 5% of basic schools in the country.
No, that's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying.
Let us stop beating around the bush. Let us stop
There's no
beating
push
around.
to beat around.
Early childhood education is too important. The fact of the matter is that what is needed now is just some serious work to tidy up the system and make it fundamental. That is what is needed.
What is needed is being done. No one who has never gone through exactly what is to be done and what is being done is in a position to speak to what is happening.
No, Winnie, but life, Winnie, life don't work that way, you know. Institutions set up some standards. The individuals who are using those standards believe that the people in the industry or in that sphere of thing have those standards, are going to meet those standards. They don't go around and sitting down and saying, but some of those standards seem high. We don't operate that way.
Sitting down. What I am saying is that these are being worked on.
Take them down, really. Meet the standards or take them down. It's almost like you saying, what I'm saying is that we don't operate that way. You see, for example, those supermarkets, Winnie, when public health inspectors set some standards about by which supermarkets must operate, we don't go around the back of the supermarket and check them, you know. We expect the public health inspectors, and that's another thing I'm coming to soon, we'll go and check them, and not for people to say, well, you know, the standards are high.
No,
the standards are there. The standards are there. And these guys are not meeting it.
I'm glad you use that, because for public health, every year you have to make sure that you're up to standard. If you have anything that has as far as health is concerned, you cannot have anything in your canteen that has expired. You cannot. So this is what is happening now. This is exactly what is happening now.
That's so what's wrong.
Yes, it is happening right now. You go to the schools and you have special time frame within which you have to make sure.
I am glad for you that you have batted for them. You have batted so long that you knock out Desmond's second return,
Anyway, let me be quiet.
No, we've come to the end of it. But
true.
I am telling you,
look at the standards.
You are an educator, an esteemed educator. You have to remember, 95% of them not meeting the standards. Thank you for joining us for this 123rd episode of the Frankly Speaking Jamaica podcast. Thanks for sharing. And please subscribe. On behalf of Desmond Richards, and we couldn't take any comments. On behalf of Desmond Richards, Winnie Anderson Brown, and Mary White, who is off today. Mary's off today. Technical support from Joshua Black Media Services. I'm Franklin McKnight. Until then, thanks.